Welcome to Just Healing, where we rediscover humanity and our conversations around trauma and celebrate all the unique ways we love and heal. I'm one of your Season 2 co-hosts, Michael Munson. Trauma doesn't exist in a bubble, and healing shouldn't either. Let's listen, let's learn, let's heal.
Have you ever felt like a strong gut feeling, maybe that pulled or pushed you away from a certain situation? For many of us, being connected to our natural born instincts is something that we aren't really recommended. So throughout our life, we maybe haven't chose to listen to it. It can also be very calming to be able to connect back in your body bit by bit. The peace, love, and joy, even if you can feel it just for a couple seconds and go, can be helpful. Sometimes it means setting boundaries. Sometimes it's asking for help. Staying connected to people that really can help you is wonderful.
Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Just Healing. I'm Michael Munson, one of your Season 2 co-hosts. I am excited to be here today with Lucy Medrow with Honey of the Heart Coaching. Let's dive in and let's listen and learn and heal together. So Lucy, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to have you be in this space and to talk about some things that are really different from the other podcasts that we've done. Can you tell folks a little bit about who you are, what you do, all of that good stuff?
Of course, yes. Thank you so much for having me on. So my name is Lucy Medrow. I am a Wisconsin resident, and I am a registered nurse and certified nurse coach and board certified Inner Voice Facilitator. So I have a lot of degrees and a lot of certifications, which is great. But what I do is, again, with my years of 10 plus years in the nursing field, Honey of the Heart Coaching is my business where I support the self-identified overachievers, people pleasers, and busy bees of the world. So I love to help anyone that is feeling stress or overwhelmed be able to connect a little bit more with their body, figure out what health and healing and life mean to them, and kind of work from that approach. And I just am a lifelong learner that is multi-passionate and love to do little things here and there.
Excellent. And one of the things that you said, I don't have any idea what it is. So you said Inner Voice Facilitator. Is that those are the three words?
Correct.
Can you share what that means?
Yeah. So an Inner Voice Facilitator. So I ended up doing a certification. And the best way I describe the inner voice is, have you ever felt like a strong gut feeling, maybe that pulled or pushed you away from a certain situation or away from something or towards something? So that is what I call like the inner voice or intuition. So that feeling, that voice, sometimes it can be even a nudging sensation or comes and communicates with people in various different ways. Sometimes it is language, or sometimes, like I mentioned, you'll feel that pull or push towards something. Maybe you'll have a memory come up. So these are just like what an inner voice facilitator does is, through our sessions, we do like a little bit of breath work, very simple breath work, and also somatic awareness to really help enhance our intuition to speak during those sessions.
Thank you. I'm guessing that's a phrase that a lot of people have not heard. So it's always good to expand all of our vocabularies in what things are.
Absolutely. And especially too, because for many of us, being connected to our natural born instincts, or again, our instincts in general, is something that we aren't really recommended to. So to do a lot, or throughout our life, we maybe haven't chose to listen to it. And so I support people connecting back to their instincts.
That is really fantastic. And, as I think about this, I think about, sexual assault survivors and how a lot of times survivors are taught to not trust their body, not trust their intuition. And so, all the more important to kind of relearn those skills that are innately with us, but sometimes get shut off when we experience violence or trauma. So
Absolutely. A lot of times too, our intuition will speak by using our body, again, like either through that push pulling that I was explaining. And some people that have dealt with sexual trauma or sexual assault, harm, any of that, sometimes it doesn't feel safe to be in our bodies. So again, with that extra kind of guidance, um, it can be really helpful. It can also be very calming, and again, in a healing way, to be able to connect back in your body bit by bit, compared to being maybe all your awareness inside.
So I know that you've already kind of expressed this in what you've shared already, but so your work focuses on kind of that holistic care and heart-led, heart-centered approach. Can you share more about what those words mean, what that looks like in your practice?
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned, I really do like to bring in the person's like inner voice or intuition into the sessions. So again, not only during our time together that we talk about mind, and like again that spirit or intuition, but we also can talk about body. So I like to be able to incorporate in my background as a registered nurse. I'm also too a board certified nurse coach, which means that I am a life and wellness coach that gets to practice under my nursing license. And there we'll just be able to, again, really incorporate the body, mind, and spirit into these areas. And again, where I really like to focus is on how people are currently living in this season of life, whatever that season of life may be for you, whether that be the season outside, maybe it's a season where your emotions are feeling a little bit more kind of stressed or on top of things. Maybe this is a season of life where you're focusing more on your body. Again, really kind of paying attention to where you are in life and seeing what you need to help support you so you can continue to go forward.
We didn't have a lot of conversation beforehand about um, the gender of the folks that you work with. And so we'll find out what your answer is with this. But I know that with our work with men, a lot of times those words would be really alien to a lot of folks. And I'm curious if that's a new learning experience for the men or the masculine identified folks that you've worked with, to talk about seasons, whether it's just all the seasons that you just listed. um, when I hear those, I tend to think of kind of more feminine identified folks that think about seasons, and that may be just my own bias or impression.
Yeah, yeah, so that's where it is very interesting, because for like the general male cycle, they typically will have like hormones and like again like energy levels that will typically a lot of times just go throughout the day, and the cycle will continue each day. Whereas people that have internal reproductive organs, or like you said, female AFAB people, so a female signed at birth, um, or also to again resonate with what I'm sharing, they'll have, instead of a daily cycle, they will still have that, but they will also have a longer cycle, a month cycle, shall we say. So anywhere from 21 to 32 days, whereas considered the menstrual cycle. So some people that again are kind of feeling that will have that. But like you said, it has been something that's a little bit newer for some people that do present or identify as male, to think about the seasons. But just kind of like the seasons outside, they all kind of vary and they can affect us differently. So it is something that is definitely interesting. And when I do talk about like the cycles, I do talk about like too that there can be some action, there can be planning and coordination, but we also like to incorporate rest. So just like the seasons outside, for winter, for nature, that is a time to rest. So really being able to incorporate that holistic, again looking at that whole point of view, is very can be very helpful and very supportive for people. Yeah, we don't really talk a lot about rest, I think, on our, if you think about here in
Right.
capitalism, yeah, the
Yep.
working 9 to 5 and the daily grind.
Yep.
So that's why bringing that awareness of there can be things considered like conscious rest, that you are actively working towards rest. For some people, there's even to like the restful action. And there's also multiple different like levels of rest, not just me going to bed. So it is, when you think of that, there can be social rest, there can be emotional rest, there can even be sensory rest. There's a lot of different types of rest that we don't really think of. And so again, being able to bring that into your health and healing journey has definitely been a really helpful aspect.
I'd like to really pursue the concept of rest, because I think, like you said, we live in this capitalist society. We live in a society where a lot of people are focused on work, 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 push, push, push. And the idea of rest is not something that's chosen. It's like sometimes people just go until they fall over. Can you share more about kind of, you listed out a couple of different types of rest, but how does that play into your coaching? How does it play into people's lives?
Yeah, so again, it is very for people when I especially to do work with them, I really like to create a customized, personalized approach because we all do know that, there is no such thing as, like for health, a one size fits all. We know that is very individualized and very customizable. And so I do like to talk about these different types of rest that people are receiving and getting already in their life. When we talk about sensory rest, that can even include the light, sounds, senses that are all around us. And for some people, for anyone who's heard of a sensory deprivation tank or a float tank, if anyone has experienced that, then they know what it means to have a sensory rest and how actually refreshing it can be. And there is science and evidence-based research that does support things like that. So that's just one of them out of, I believe there's like 6 or 7 of them.
Thank you for expanding on that, because I just, that is something that is just so inbred in our culture to not rest, to not be conscious about it. So it's good for people to talk about it and to hear about it and to think about it and where that may go for them.
It does definitely to extend beyond, like I said, the physical rest, just sleeping. Even to some of us, again, depending on what season of you are in life, some people might need a social rest. Again, also to like creative rest, what that would look like and feel into.
Yeah, I hope that spurs people to think about kind of where they are in their life and what kind of rest they might need or want, um, and just kind of have that be an open door for folks. So, I think that some people are really familiar with coaching, the concept of coaching, and you have some kind of, I don't want to say niche coaching, but like you've got some words that go before coaching, which is really really fantastic. And sometimes people think that like therapy and coaching are the same thing, and they're not. And sometimes people feel pressured to go to therapy because that's what they're told to do. And coaching might be the better option for some folks. So I'm wondering if you can share, like, why is coaching a good thing? And how can it either supplement therapy or replace therapy or be, where does that fit for some of the folks that you work with?
So with the coaching, again, it's more of an action working towards goals. And again, those goals could be related to the body, mind, spirit, business, truly kind of anything. And again, there are specialty coaches that work with that. So with mine specifically related to coaching, I really love to focus on certain aspects. One aspect is I love supporting nurses and healthcare workers. Right now, science is showing that they are just statistically burnt out. Also, too, we have some pretty alarming facts that, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have to worry about our nurses aging out of the profession and not as many people are entering the profession. So that again increases more, again, like burnout and exhaustion. And especially we're talking about people that are caring for other people. So I really have a passion for working with nurses, healthcare providers, or people that care for others, to again create again holistic. You can still do action but also incorporate rest and joy and laughter and all of that. So that could be an example of some coaching. And again, I love working with nurses. I also too have a background in working with non-binary and gender expansive folks, working related to the menstrual cycle, through a holistic lens. And then also, one of my big things is I really love supporting folks who are looking to define health and wellness for themselves and building a support system around that, because that is a lot easier said than done. And everyone has their own personal definition of health. So, what can be very different from that compared to therapy is therapy. Um, Again, there's lots of different types of therapy, but a lot of times there will be a focus on maybe one thing that you're really kind of diving down, understanding a little bit more, or trying to process things. Whereas coaching, again, is a more short term, maybe goal action oriented. Again, coaching can work really well in tandem with a health care need, a health issue. It can also work like really great and in tandem with therapy as well. But they are definitely two different things. And so typically during that call, that first intro call, I like to kind of see where people are at, see if they also do have a therapist already. So yeah, where I think it kind of just depends on what your focus is, what your intention is, and then also too to see where you and that person that you're potentially adding in as your support team, whether that be a coach, therapist, or both, seeing really how they can continue to support what you are going through in life.
I know for a lot of male survivors, it's really the thought of therapy is just daunting. Of like, I don't want to talk about my stuff, and I think a lot of people associate therapy with, well, I have to tell my story. I have to go into this deep stuff. And I know with my personal experience with coaching, it's like you said, it's kind of it's action oriented, or it's more goal driven, and it doesn't necessarily have to look backwards as much as it looks forward. And I know that that may not be true for your experiences as a coach, but I think there's sometimes really a lot of benefit for folks to be where they are in the present rather than looking backwards.
I absolutely agree with you. And even too, in my own personal life, before I became a coach, I did end up hiring coaches to, again, like help me just as like truly as like a cheerleader, or again as an addition to a support team, to really just help me with where I wanted to go. And then even too, like in a couple years ago, I was having some of my own like health issues happening. Also to my parents, as they were aging, also were experiencing some really intense health issues. We were losing some family members as well. And I knew at that time, I was like, I need to seek my own therapist. um but again, like it just felt very like different in those types of situations. So that's the nice thing about coaching, I would say, is it can truly be as superficial or as deep as you want. I also too just always like to kind of caveat by saying it's also too might be totally normal for your coach to recommend for you to go see a therapist, or your therapist will recommend to go see a coach. Again, it's that supportive network that can just again speak really helpful and speak volumes. And again, research shows that once we feel like we're part of community, once we are again growing together and supporting one another, we can really, it helps us with our longevity, it helps us with life, it helps us reduce our blood pressure even.
Right.
Like it
Yeah.
really does some wonderful
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah.
staying connected to people that really can help you is wonderful.
And I certainly didn't want to sound anti-therapy, because therapy does have its total place. Um, but what you just mentioned, kind of makes me think about like, what could teams of people look like, right? So people might have a therapist, they might have a coach, they might have healthcare providers involved, they may have friends or family. Who do you think of are the kinds of people that people may have in their sphere of supporters, community, their team?
Yeah, I also too incorporate into those two also like support groups. So I'm a big advocate for support groups, especially too if it is related to a certain area. So if you are looking to, again, maybe therapy, like one-on-one therapy, feels a little too daunting, or like you said, it is too much focused on yourself. Going to group therapy can be really helpful. And again, it's not just so focused one-on-one. Even too, there are support groups that can also be very helpful.
And there's so many options, which is just, the good thing about life right now is that there are so many places that people can access support of what they need, specifically what they need.
Absolutely. And too, you can do that whether in person, virtual, over the phone. There's even too, I've seen, like just different groups on the internet for that. So yeah, it is truly wonderful how accessible it has become.
Hmm. Yeah, I was surprised. Somebody mentioned the other day that they were in a support group and it was on Discord. And I'm like, first of all, I don't really know what Discord is, and how do you do that? But it sounds really cool. So it's like the world is open to all these possibilities, which is fantastic. Yeah, really fantastic. Um, I know that your work is harm reduction, inclusive, and anti-oppression. What do those words mean to you?
Yeah, so anti-oppressive, I would say, is really truly to strive for inclusion. So everyone, regardless of gender, race, age, sexuality, geography, ethnicity, ability, or disability, deserves access to accurate health information so they can make the best decisions to get the care and support they need and deserve. So within that anti-oppressive model, it's really bringing in that of, again, meeting the person where they're at and really striving for inclusion in that. The other part of that I would also put into is like health equity. So at the most basic level, health equity means everyone gets what they need to succeed. And health equity occurs when everyone has a fair and just opportunity to achieve their highest level of health. And this includes barriers, circumstances, and conditions that can impact each individual. So, really, again, bringing in that health equity and inclusion piece can be very, very important. As far as with the harm reduction aspect, I also do have extensive knowledge in psychedelics and harm reduction related to those. So again, for some people who are interested in exploring either whether that be psychedelics or other like alternative methods, we do know that again, for some people, some of these can be good, but it's not safe for everyone. So I really like to make sure that again, if you are going to be doing certain things, that you're doing it in the interest and intent with your health. Um, or like or like a famous book by believe it's Carl Hart, and I absolutely love the name of it. It goes drug use for grown-ups. Like, hey, if you're gonna do drugs, then do
Right.
drugs like an adult.
Right. Yeah.
Like understand a little bit more about what you are ingesting, how that's going to affect you, and then also to a little like I would say like aftermath or aftercare too with that. So I really like to again the harm reduction to me specifically when it comes to psychedelics or like other things that you're interested in trying. You just want to make sure that it's appropriate for your body, the medicines you're taking, and so forth.
I was thinking as you were sharing, harm reduction isn't just about drugs or medication, or is it just about sexual risk? It's about a lot of different things. And I was thinking about what you're talking about with rest and seasons, and how some people, a lot of survivors, are really push, 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 and that really creates a harmful effect for their bodies or their minds. And it's like, how does harm reduction play into when people are not addressing some of those I don't want to call them risks, but like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like when we live in this world that's really fast paced and we don't talk about the harm that our world causes us. Do you look at that in terms of like harm reduction, or is that outside of what you would think of as harm reduction?
No, Michael, I would say that that is definitely part of harm reduction. Again, that even goes back into not only just, again, how active we are as human beings, but you're also too saying that push, 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 where we're not really listening to our body, we're not listening to our intuition or our inner voice. So that, again, being able to create space for that, however it is, whether that be small snack size pieces, which again, you get to like snack throughout the day, whether that be a longer period of time, or again like maybe in a month you have a whole week dedicated to that. However it fits with your schedule is very important, and again one of the ways that you want to be able to customize and personalize your, again, like not only how active you are but also to how restful you are. I am definitely one of those people that my tendency is to lean towards work. So for me, working comes very second nature. I feel like my intuition comes through when I work. I again it's stuff that I love to do, but I will say work is definitely an additional stress at times. And so for me, what I've noticed is how, for me personally, what it is I actually have to work to rest, like to actually sit and again like maybe not work on something, like for example not sitting down on the couch and automatically turning on the TV. This is an intentional rest that I'm trying to take and see. And again, it's starting something is never easy, so this is why it can be nice to have a support person nearby, whether that be an encouraging and trusted family or friend, a coach, therapist, or truly anyone. It can just be nice as you're starting off something new.
I was also thinking about your comment about capitalism before, and this world that we live in, and prioritizing what we need is not part of that equation usually. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that push, push, push society, what our family or friends' needs might be, and how we can try to bring in our needs in relation to the world's needs or our family or our friends' needs, and make that all balance out somehow.
Yeah, it is a big question and it does definitely vary per person. So I would actually like to maybe do that by trying a little exercise if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So if anyone's listening, I definitely highly recommend to try this with us. But what I would love is if you, again, feel comfortable touching your own body, I would like you to touch your heart or your stomach. Okay. And if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes and just feel your heart or your stomach as you are, again, as it's beating. Maybe you're starting to feel a little bit of warmth on your hand. And as you're feeling that, I want you to connect with your breath and just feeling your hand rise and fall with each breath. Now, if you had to visualize, get a word, a body sensation, or an image that comes up into your mind about just one thing, and this one thing I want you to think of is, how stressed am I now? So, with your hand on your heart or on your stomach, feeling your breath moving in and out, how stressed do you feel now? And taking in maybe a nice deep breath and an exhale out. Now I want you to think of all the things that you have to do, all the people that you support, people you take care of that depend on you. Maybe you have work, you bring that into feeling that. Maybe you have animals, you're feeling in that. Maybe you own your own property or own your own apartment, bringing all of it in, okay? Bringing all it in of what it is to be you in today. Your health, how your body's feeling, all the people you support, family, friends, pets. And just feeling again, how stressed are you with all of that? Taking a nice deep breath in and out. Maybe a word comes up, an image, a body sensation, a clenching or a relaxing. And just feeling that. And then whenever you're ready, you can lower down your hand. You can open your eyes if you had them closed. Why I wanted to bring in that activity specifically of how it felt to be stressed right here, right now, just you feeling your heart or your stomach, and then bringing in all the other stuff that actually makes you you, how you live throughout the life, how you walk and move. Those can feel like very different things. And just first acknowledging of that difference, I think is very important. And then I think the other steps to getting, again, bringing in more rest of that grind is truly coming back to that feeling when it was just you, your hand on your heart or your hand on your stomach. If you felt calmer, then how can you continue to connect back with that? Because that is always there. You can do that truly at any point in time and feel that way. And so I definitely understand that first nature of, again, taking care of others before you take care of yourself. But it's kind of like what they say on the plane. If plane's going down and you need oxygen, you need to put oxygen on before you put on oxygen on other people. And so if you think about that, of what does it look like then if you are that stressed of walking around in your life? How does that really affect your relationships and to how you are showing up? So sometimes it means about setting boundaries. Sometimes it's asking for help. Evidence does support that chronic stress is not good for any of us, and that constant moving does not help.
You and I were in a connected space the other day, and I was like, oh my God, wow, that was so cool. And we were talking a little bit about, and I'm not going to disclose anything that, was confidential, I don't think. And, but you were talking about kind of like preparing for things that are hard. And I think about a lot of male survivors who it's hard to sometimes get up in the morning. It's hard to go to a doctor's appointment. It's hard to go to therapy. It's hard to go to work. It's hard to do whatever it is. Pick the hard thing it is to do. And you came up with this, just you were like a rapid fire of what you do or what you know that other people do. And I'm wondering if you could just share some of those things about like how you prepare or how somebody could prepare for things that are hard that they want to do or that they need to do, but they have the feels about.
I always, again, love personally one of my like what's called love languages. One of my love languages is gifts. And so I love to be able to gift myself something after some big, heavy appointments. So, for example, when I was going to see a therapist, I had it done online because that's what I felt comfortable with. And so I made sure I had like little Reese's right next to me. So as soon as I was done, I was able to enjoy something savory and something just great. I also too have, when it comes to like bigger things that I know are like, it's, I'm really nervous for this. I'm not sure. I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed about what I have to do. It's that anticipatory anxiety that, again, my body is familiar with. And so I have even to seen really seeing what I can do to help support me in that moment. So if I plan, for example, an appointment that I'm really nervous for, I go, what would make me want to actually go through with it? What will help me doing that? So I have used actual calendar reminders of being like, you got this, keep doing it. Like, like you have done hard things before is a frequent reminder that comes up on my notifications of like, hey, you can do this. I have also too had accountability buddies. So I have utilized my coach before, or even two family members or friends that I trust to say, hey, I'm going to do this. I would love for you to check in with me afterwards because I want to celebrate with you when I'm done. So I have done that before. I have even too worn clothes that make me feel the most comfortable in my body. I always recommend to like think about what you want for the appointment. What are certain questions that you want to ask, and have them written down. So there's a lot of great things, from anything that can again help your momentum. Sometimes falling on other people or like relying on other people, we all have been kind of burnt by that. Of we are asking you to do something and sometimes people drop the ball. They're human. So sometimes it's nice to again be able to have some of these other things like an automatic reminder or a little note that you gave yourself afterwards, or maybe it's a gift that you can have after you do something hard. Because that's one thing about being an adult is we do definitely have to do hard things, but if it's going towards your health, your intention, your healing, those they're long-term effects. So sometimes short discomfort to long-term effects can just be long lasting and so beneficial.
Because I was just really blown away the other day, and the technology that we have available to us now, versus 10 years ago or 20 years ago, is just amazing. It allows us to send, like put calendar reminders or you go kind of reminders in there, and we can get push notifications. We can have food delivered at a certain time because DoorDash will bring it, and we can do all of those things, and we're not relying on other people. Other people are great, but yeah, if we need to make sure of those things ourselves, there's so many things that can be done. And I love the fact that, like, you mentioned clothing. It's like, different clothes make us feel different ways. And, how am I feeling today? Do I want to feel confident? Do I want to feel bold? And that can really set the tone emotionally of what where we go. So
Absolutely. Some
those are
people
cool.
too even will have like a support item that they can, again, that's like they can either wear on themselves or have in their hand, just to have as like it's your own thing that you can kind of feel and hold while you're doing something. And again, it very much depends on like who you are. So again, these are like just some random ideas to really help to get those creative juices flowing for your own life. Like how can you support yourself during difficult times or harder times, and or even to going from the exact opposite and having more positive messaging. How can I celebrate joy of like, hell yeah, I did this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I really love talking to people is about their window of tolerance. And so a lot of times when we think about window of tolerance, we think about like stress or how much action we can all get done in one thing. You can also expand your window of tolerance for joy and for happiness and for peace or rest if that's whatever your focus might be.
And that is such a good reminder to survivors who sometimes feel that those things are alien. They're like so far out of reach. I mean, the concept of joy or peace or love. So those are just good reminders, right, of what is accessible to all of us. It may not be right now, but it might be down the road some. So those
Very
are
true. And also, too, even if you can feel it getting closer or even feeling it a little bit and it goes away, it's kind of the same thing, too, about bodies. Again, sometimes it doesn't feel comfortable being in your own body. I am definitely a person that has experienced that. And so, knowing even too, maybe if there's just one, even if it's the tiniest spot, maybe it's your big toe that you feel comfortable in, just starting in one spot. Remember, you don't have to go into your body all at once. Um, and so, kind of like the peace, love, and joy, even if you can feel it just for a couple seconds and go, can be helpful. One of the other things I love that me and my husband do too, which is great, is at the end of every day, we ask each other, what are our highlights of the day? And a total appropriate response is there's none. That is totally fine. But many more days than not, we're able to find at least one thing. And it's been interesting to see how we've been doing this over the years now, how those things a lot of times are the mundane, are those like little quick moments that maybe just last a couple seconds and that's it.
this podcast has kind of a tagline of let's listen, let's learn, and let's heal. When you hear those words, what comes to mind? What do those words elicit for you?
Hmm. I instantly get a very relaxing feeling throughout my entire body. So being able to be listened to also means that someone's actively listening on the other side. And so really paying attention to that. The healing part, I think, is something that we're all trying to do and continue to do and work towards. And so I feel again like that feeling very much for myself and like you said, to grow. And I specifically love the idea of growing together for community. And I know Men Healing is doing that, bringing people together.
This was fun. We did exercises, we did fun things, we talked about some really cool stuff. So thank you so much for making the time, taking the time, being part of this podcast series. I'm really, really grateful for your presence and your being and your all of your you-ness. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Just Healing. Join us for new episodes throughout 2024, where we will continue to spread messages of hope and healing and welcome Just Healing's two other new co-hosts, Dr. Greg Kaysen and Jace Barron. It's going to be an exciting year. And remember, you are worthy, you are loved. Trauma doesn't define any of us. Healing is possible, and it's a collective journey. This podcast was produced by Dr. Deborah and me, Michael Munson, in collaboration with Men Healing, a national nonprofit organization dedicated to helping provide accessible resources and community for any male or masculine identifying individual who has experienced sexual harm. You can donate, check out our healing events, videos, and other resources at menhealing.org. If you or someone you know has been a victim of or experienced sexual harm and you need to talk to someone, RAIN can help. Call their National Sexual Assault Hotline to speak with a trained staff member who can provide you with confidential crisis support. It's free, it's confidential, and it's available 24/7. You can call 1-800-656-4673, or you can go to their web-based chat support. You can reach it at hotline.rain.org. That's HOTLINE.RAINN.org.